not over.
It's not over
Until I win.
until I win.
Now, that is one of my favorite sayings, and that's by a motivational speaker by the name of Les Brown. Now, Les Brown was talking about business and personal development. When I say it, I'm also talking about politics, saving this country. And I have got the attitude that we are going to save this country come hell or high water, because it's not over until we, Americans, win. Plain and simple.
Right.
I'm not giving in. I don't know about you. I tell a lot of people all the time on my radio show, it's not time to panic yet. I will tell you when it's time to panic and run to Canada or Alaska. Right now, it's not the time.
I ain't running.
Right now, right now, it's time to dig in and fight for our country. Because this is not something that came to our founding fathers easily. As we know our history, it was a long, hard battle. This is not, unfortunately, we have a lot of Americans that think because they haven't experienced real war since World War II, that everything is supposed to be easy. You know, we're just supposed to be able to sit back, get fat, dumb, and lazy, and enjoy the spoils that so many people have fought hard for. Well, let me tell you something. Freedom is not free. Freedom is not easy. And freedom is only for those who deserve to have it. Now, one of the things I often say, Battleship, if you've heard that rant, I can't believe how many people have actually listened to it. And I put it on my website, and I get all kinds of remarks on it still to this day. I think I did that back in 2009. But I always refer people back to the movie 300. Who's seen the movie 300?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you love it? If you're a guy, that's like a testosterone overload. I love that movie. I've got it on DVD, I've got it on HD, and plus I've got it saved on my recorder on Netflix. So whenever Netflix has it, I can get it anytime I want. I love that movie because there's a message. And I've changed King Leonidas' message just a little bit to fit us. This is America. And nobody across this planet should misunderstand that. There has been no country like this in the history of mankind. There will not be another country like this in the history of mankind going forward. This is not a country that was birthed by man's idea. This is a country that was breathed into existence by God Almighty Himself.
Yeah.
Yes, I am a Christian. I make no bones about it. I believe in Jesus Christ. He is my Lord and Savior, and I say that as an American because we have the ability to think freely, to speak freely, to talk freely. I'm not talking about those stupid, idiot little minds full of mush up there at Dartmouth and on college campuses all across the country who think that freedom of speech is only for those who agree with them.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's not.
No.
I'm one of those people that if you listen to my program, it's 2 hours of brash, unabashed Americanism. And some people always ask me, well, do you think that maybe you're being a little bit too harsh? Well, if the truth is harsh, then so be it. Well, or don't you think you should be laying out the foundation like, honey, so people will be attracted to you? So that's never going to happen. First of all, I'm an African American. I'm a conservative. Ooh, that's 2 strikes right there. I'm also part Native American. I am part Cherokee and Osage, and folks, I can prove it. I do not hold back. And if somebody doesn't like me, I say, oh well, that's not my problem. I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I never have. My parents always said, when I got to college, my parents always said to me, we never had a problem with you. We never worried about you following the crowd and getting into things that you shouldn't get into because you have such an independent mind. And I said, well, it's because I got it from my parents. My mother is the only daughter of the Southern Baptist minister. My father was one of 6 kids. He spent 21 years in the United States Air Force, and he was a veteran of the Vietnam War. True story. I spent my year number 4 on this planet for a whole year without my father. He was serving in Vietnam. My sister was born, and my dad was gone. So when people tell me, well, this is a sacrifice. You don't know what sacrifice is. Well, we need to have people that understand. No, they don't understand. They're not going to understand because they haven't experienced it. I have lived or visited places like Greece, Turkey, Spain, Italy. I know how other people, look, I went to school in Athens, Greece, when I was in the 3rd grade. I got on a school bus that had 2 fully armed MPs on it to protect us kids, because this was back in the time in the early 70s when wonderful Kissinger decided to piss off the Greeks and the Turks at the same time when they went to war with the island of Crete. I watched my father hide our green Chevy every night behind some bushes. Thankfully it was green, because other American cars and servicemen had their cars firebombed. In fact, every time it was even said on the base, it was recommended before you start your car, look under your hood, look under your car to make sure there's no incendiary device. But did I grow up screwed up? No. Did I blame my parents and the government for doing certain things? No. I understood one thing, that there are people in this world, no matter what we do, that are going to hate the very thing that the United States stands for. It doesn't matter. And this is something that some of the things that liberals have to fully understand, because they don't seem to understand it. They think they can be nice to everybody. Let me tell you something. You can be as nice as you want to be, but that Islamist is still going to chop off your head. And for you stupid liberals out there, let me remind you, they're coming for you first. Yes. Because you stand for everything they abhor. Plain and simple. See, I understand people. I may not be a politician. I'm not running for office. I don't ever plan to run for office. In fact, the last time I ran for any type of office was student government president in my college, which I lost. That was my first taste of politics. The person who won, she was a good politician, let me tell you. I came in second, but that doesn't mean anything because she won in a landslide. Really, I don't mind admitting that. She trounced there were 5 candidates. She trounced every one of us by more than 1,000 votes. You know what she's doing today? Yep, she's a liberal politician in the state of Illinois. So, did I really lose? No, because I didn't sell myself out. Yes. Now, I was told tonight, I should give a rip-roaring, uplifting message tonight. Well, I don't have anything that's a downer, because this is America. Why should we be depressed? We still have the ability, we still have the Constitution. See, I am not a Republican, although I'm a registered Republican. I am a constitutional conservative, and that means I ride everybody. You listen to my show, I attack everybody. And I don't just do it for rhetoric's sake. I give facts and figures. I back up my stuff. That's what others don't like. You want to get a liberal to shut up and run away? Give them facts. Just flood them with facts. They'll come to you with emotion. They'll emote everything. I say I'm a logical person. I believe in historical facts. I believe in logical, real data. What have you got? They all they have is emotion. I'm not that emotional. I love this country. I usually say I'm a man that's having a love affair with the United States of America. I am so privileged to have been born here. Look, as bad as liberals say this place is, how can it be that bad when everybody across the planet still wants to come here? Yes. They are willing to risk their lives to get here. They will try to walk. They will try to swim. They will hide in cargo areas of airplanes to get here. So if that's the case, are we going to buy into the notion that the liberals are selling us that this place is so awful? Oh, there's so much white privilege. Really? Where? You mean you don't have the opportunities an African American or a Latino to do exactly what Donald Trump did or anybody else did? No, really. So how do you explain all those wonderful, wealthy, successful blacks and Latinos out there? Did they get lucky or did they just work and not whine? Well, we have the biggest whiner that we know of that's now the President of the United States. You know, I'm not a Barack Obama fan. Far from it. Well, didn't you vote for Barack? Do I look that stupid? I'm not going to vote for Obama. I never would vote for Obama. Now, I'm not going to say that I never vote for a Democrat, because that would be a lie. I vote for the most conservative candidate available to me that has a shot to win. Sometimes, believe it or not, unfortunately, it happens to be a Democrat. But I can tell you, ever since I started voting in national elections, yeah, I've never voted for a Democrat. I voted for Reagan, Bush. Bush then lost to Clinton. I didn't vote for Clinton. Yeah, I went for Ross Perot. I learned my lesson, as many Americans did. 19 million of us voted for Ross Perot, and we gave birth to William Jefferson. The problem with that is, because I've learned my lesson, I say, and I have to honestly say, I helped elect William Jefferson Clinton because I threw my vote away for Ross Perot. And this is what happened with Mitt Romney. We have a lot of evangelicals, a lot of Republicans that stayed home and didn't vote. Well, you helped elect Barack Obama to a second term. There's just no way around it. It is a logical progression. Once you look at the numbers, how many of them stayed home and did not vote, that was more than enough to make Mitt Romney the next president of the United States. But they sat home, and now they're complaining. Well, let me tell you something. In this country, not only do you have a right to vote, you have a duty and an obligation as a citizen of this country to vote. And you need to find the most conservative candidate available to you that has a chance to win. Now, I know some people say, well, I don't want to have to hold my nose to vote for this person. I get it. I do. I understand it. I didn't like Romney either. But I had to look at the alternative. The alternative was another 4 years of Barack Obama. And I warned people on my radio show that if he was to win re-election, we thought that the first 4 years was radical, and leftists, you ain't seen nothing yet. And he has lived up to his word about transforming this country, and he's done it in the last 3 years now, and he's going for a fourth.
Yes. Right.
He's just come out and said that his last year in office, his #1 priority is stripping our Second Amendment rights. Now, I don't know about you. Anybody see the movie Tremors? Nobody see the...
No.
I want Bert's basement. That guy had every gun known to man. I want Bert's basement. I wrote an article once that talked about the Second Amendment. And I pointed out exactly why owning a firearm is a God-given right. It's a God-given right because you have the right to protect you and your family, your life. Because you have a right to pursue your liberty and your freedom and your happiness. You have a right to live. Nobody has a right to take your life. So you have that right to protect your life. And you have the right to use any tool available to you to protect your life. By today's standards, it's the equivalent of the old sword. Now, did you know that most kingdoms back in the day, when knights ran around and people used horses to get around, that most average people, the proletariat, all the paupers, they weren't allowed to have swords. They weren't allowed to learn how to use swords. Why? Because when the lords and the kings and the knights came through town, they wanted to be able to make sure that they could, what? Control you easily. Today's sword is a firearm. The founders understood this, which is why they made that #2. Because they understood that if you have a government that has all the guns, you're not a citizen, you're a subject. And how many times have we heard, if you ever watched all the medieval TV shows, or if you read any of the medieval novels or even history books, what did they call the people that they were in charge of? Their subjects. I refuse to be a subject. I don't live in Russia. I don't live in England. I don't live in China. I live in the United States of America where I am a citizen. That's the difference. Because as a citizen, I own the government. The government doesn't own me. Although you have a bunch of people in Washington, D.C. that think it's the other way around. Well, I always tell people, why don't we give them a wake-up call and show them and prove to them who actually owns this country? It isn't the politicians. It's the people. I've often been chastised because some people think that I'm anti-police. I'm not anti-police. I'm very much law and order. I believe in the Constitution as the main law in this country. What I say about the police is they're human beings, they make mistakes, and there are bad apples in the police department like any other profession. We need to figure out how to find them and weed them out. The vast majority of police officers are good, honest people, but here's the problem. What do we call the police department now? We say law enforcement.
That's right.
Ooh. No, that's not what they were originally called. They were officers of the law that were charged with upholding the law. There's a difference. We have too many laws in the books right now. And because we have all these wonderful laws now, our politicians have turned our police departments into revenuers. How many tickets do people get? So they're out there enforcing the law. They're looking for anything possible because they have to. And now it's gotten to the point where people say, well, just do what the police say. Well, I'm sorry. This is still the United States of America. I have rights. The cops do not have the ability or the authority to tell me what to do. If I am not breaking the law, there is no state of emergency. How is it that if a cop tells me to cross the street and I don't cross the street, I can get arrested and fined for disobeying an officer?
Right.
When did that come about? That's enforcing the law, not upholding it. Because if he was upholding it, the officer would understand, well, I have a right to walk down this side of the street unencumbered. But now we have all these wonderful laws, like now New Hampshire. If you come up to New Hampshire to help us out, you gotta be careful. Make sure you don't have that phone in your hand. And make sure that when you're at a stoplight, you don't use that phone. I've warned about this too. People said, well, you know, phones are dangerous. Yeah, so is everything else you do in the car. Talking to somebody else, playing with your radio, eating a bird from Burger King, or drinking your coffee. But in New Hampshire, they go a little step further than the hands-free stuff. They say you can't even use that electronic device if you're at a stoplight. Oh, no, you'll get taken $150 first offense. In fact, they did a sting not too long ago in New Hampshire. There was an undercover officer standing on the street corner, and he's dressed like he was a bum, in a cardboard sign that read, "The end is near." Now this one lady and her daughter was in the car. The daughter says, "Hey, Mom, look at that." So what does the woman do? The daughter hands the woman her cell phone. She clicks it. Half a block later, after the light turns green, she gets pulled over. Now the cop, female cop, pulls her over. Wouldn't tell her at first why she got pulled over. She's like, I don't know why you're pulling me over. Why are you pulling me over? And so finally the cop relented what the cop is supposed to say right off the bat. If the person asks, well, what seems to be the problem? You know why I pulled you over? I don't know why. Would you please tell me? At that particular point, they're charged to tell you why. This cop didn't want to tell her that, obviously. But eventually, the cop told her, I pulled you over because you took a picture. And the woman was like, now here's the problem. She said, well, I didn't know that. But you know, if that's the law, then I guess I was wrong. And I wanted my daughter to understand that you always have to obey the law. No, first of all, she should have been incensed. She was at a stoplight. Nobody was in danger. And the law is written in such a way that if she actually picked up a camera instead of her cell phone, she wouldn't have broken the law. Now, what's the difference?
I thought it was any electronic device.
Your camera is not an electronic device.
What if you have an digital one is?
No, somebody challenged that. I heard that SLR, the digital camera, is not a part of that because it's not a true electronic device. Electronic devices that, what they mean by electronic device is they're talking about your cell phone, they're talking about your TomTom. Okay, you ever try to, now a lot of these things that are in cars now, your GPS systems, a lot of them don't work if you're moving anyway. But the portable ones do. But you can't touch it. You can't, if you're driving your car in New Hampshire, you can't touch that thing. You have to pull over. Not at a stoplight, but pull over, get off the road before you can play with that thing. Or else you're subject to a $150 fine.
It's crazy.
Wow. Now, some people say, well, it's for safety reasons, I guess. But I warned people, I said, if they're going to attack your cell phone, they'll attack anything in your car. Now, right after I saw that story in New Hampshire, I saw another story. See, I get to see all this stuff because I do the radio. Minnesota. The state of Minnesota. Woman gets on the highway, immediately gets pulled over. Why did she get pulled over? And I kid you not, because it was a big story in the Minneapolis newspaper. She got pulled over for drinking coffee.
Oh my gosh.
Now, is that the United States of America that you grew up with?
No.
It's not mine. Why is it that way? Because we have a bunch of liberals out there that are making laws because they think that they know how to live your life better than you do. And because government has gotten so big, they need every possible way to get revenue to keep it running.
That's right.
Understand, I don't care what they call it. They could call it a license, they could call it a fine, they could call it a permit, whatever. Anything that you pay the government that is above and beyond actually keeping the peace is a tax. Americans are some of the most taxed people on the planet. And Bernie Sanders says we're not paying enough because he wants to go the way of Sweden or Denmark. Let me tell you something. I have a cousin who lives in Sweden. They don't like their system. They don't like it. Sweden has changed their free healthcare system twice in the last 30 years. Yes, it didn't work. Great Britain, England is trying to get out from under their free healthcare system. They're trying to figure out how to break it up. Get out from the government monopoly. Why? Because it doesn't work. Spain almost went bankrupt. Greece went bankrupt because they had big government that did not work. So we're the United States of America, and we're supposed to show the world how it can work successfully. We did that for a very long time. And now we have a bunch of namby-pamby, wimpy, pampered little kids under the age of 25 who think everything should be handed to them. No, it takes work. It takes work to maintain your freedom. It takes work to get the things that your parents earned. You can't sit at home getting a useless degree. You know, I always chastise people for going to college. College is good for certain things, don't get me wrong. If you're going to be a doctor, go to college. If you're going to be a structural engineer, go to college. If you're going to be a lawyer, you don't need to go to college. Believe it or not, you don't even have to have a law degree. All you have to do is pass the bar in most states. Most people don't realize that. But you don't need college for a lot of stuff. Why are we spending all this money on letting our kids get a degree in historical underwater color water art? Seriously. And they wonder why they can't get a job. Well, you don't have a degree that's worth anything. Have a degree in business. Really? Well, the wealthiest people in this country who own businesses don't have business degrees, so what's your excuse? Hell, you got Facebook, Zuckerberg, dropped out. Microsoft, Bill Gates, dropped out. Apple, although he's passed on, Steve Jobs, dropped out. Where are their business degrees? They have some of the biggest, most profitable, most valuable companies on the planet. They don't have a degree. Why? Because they were able to do something here in this country that a lot of people are not willing to do. And that's why this is America. Because everybody has opportunity. I don't care the color of your skin. I don't care where your parents came from. I don't care what city you were born in or what side of the tracks that you grew up on. We all have the same opportunity. What liberals want is equal outcome. That's never going to happen. What we have is equal opportunity.
Yes.
What you do with it is up to you. And what we have in this country today is a bunch of politicians that are running that want to try to level the playing field. In other words, what they're saying is they want equal outcome. And that's true of some of our Republican candidates. And I bristle at the notion that none of you guys, none of them are standing up and saying enough is enough. I'm going to tear this big government apart. All except, now I'm not saying I support him, but I firmly believe that if Donald Trump is elected president, he's going to be walking down the halls in government offices and saying, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired. That's what we need. We need to pare down this government because it's very bad that a government employee makes almost twice as much as their private citizen counterpart. Who's paying their bill? We are. No, that cannot stand. And I believe that this time if we get a real, true conservative elected as president, that will not stand. So we have to work doubly hard to make sure that that happens, no matter what. I know that there's voter fraud all over the place. I warn people about that. And I know liberals say there's no evidence of voter fraud. Really? I show them case after case after case in state after state after state, people being fined and going to jail over voter fraud. I know the issue in New Hampshire about busloads coming in. I lived in Keene a few years ago when they did that in the little town of Marlborough. Hey, are you kidding me? We don't need a bus to bring people from the town of Marlborough to the voting block. You can walk there. I will say it didn't work because the town of Marlborough is so small, everybody knows everybody. And they know if you don't live here. But that doesn't work everywhere. We can't rely on that. We do need voter ID. I'm all for it.
Yes.
It doesn't disenfranchise anybody.
Exactly.
As a matter of fact, it makes sure that your vote and your vote and your vote actually counts.
Yes.
That's what it's all about. Is winning back the nation, not only for ourselves, but for our posterity. I am the coolest, most politically incorrect conservative black man on the planet, and I dare anybody to say otherwise. Because nobody's more conservative than I am when it comes to constitutional government. You want to say I'm an Uncle Tom? Tom, I'll say you're an idiot. Our system of government, our document that is called the Constitution, no, it's not perfect. Nothing that man creates ever is. Even if it's God inspired, God didn't actually make it. If he did, it would have been perfect, but we would still find a way to screw it up. But it's not perfect. Our founders understood that, and they gave us a way to be able to modify it when the need arose. And of course, today liberals say, well, it's too difficult to get a constitutional amendment. That was the point. You know, even back in Woodrow Wilson's day, liberals followed the law and tried to get constitutional amendments. It was still possible. We got prohibition, and then we got prohibition repealed. Both were constitutional amendments. Today, we have a guy sitting in the Oval Office that just thinks, well, you know, hey, if you're not going to do it, I'm just going to use my pen, and then it's going to be done. Because I'm the president. That's all there is. That's not the way it works. So now we have to send this guy a message. We have to send Democrats a message. And we have to keep sending them the message. Because, folks, you want to say that you need something that's inspiring. Let me tell you what's inspiring across this country. Since 2010, more than 1,300 seats from local to state to federal level have changed hands from Democrat to Republican. If that's not a movement, if that's not positive, then I don't know what is. And the GOP better understand it, the establishment better know it, learn it, love it, because the American people are sick and tired of the status quo, the way things are going. We have just told them what we want, and we have created the largest peacetime change of power in human history, and we're continuing to do it. That's why Democrats are running scared. That's why they don't want Bernie Sanders as their nominee. Make no mistake about it, my prediction is the DNC will not allow Bernie Sanders that nomination. If Hillary Clinton can't do it, they will bring Biden out of mothballs, and they will give it to him.
Oh, yeah?
Our national village idiot.
Yes. The GOP will do everything that they think they can possibly do to keep somebody like Donald Trump or Ben Carson from getting the nomination. They tried it with Rubio. Rubio is a new boy for them. And if Rubio can't do it, oh, maybe we need to bring Mitt back. No, the American people aren't falling for it. Don't get me wrong, Rubio's not a bad guy. He's got some major problems, though. American people don't particularly like his brand of conservatism on immigration.
Exactly.
And a few other points. He's a big spender. And the reason why people aren't, and I know some people in here are big Cruz fans, but like I said, I'm playing things right, so I don't care. I'm not throwing my support behind anybody yet. But people have a problem with Cruz, and I'll tell you why. And I've heard this. Cruz is too polished. He's a modern day Richard Nixon. That's what I've heard. That's his problem. Dr. Carson has his problem. He's too meek. He's too soft-spoken.
Yes.
Donald Trump has his problem. Well, he's too bombastic. Well, you know what? That's his problem, that's his weakness, and his strength, because people like that.
Exactly.
I do what Donald Trump does. I tell people the truth, whether or not they want to hear it, or whether or not they're going to like it. If you don't like the truth, that's not my problem. Maybe I should start pinning that over my head. Not my problem.
I love it.
That's what Hillary said the night of Benghazi.
Don't even get me started on that. But let me tell you, folks, we haven't lost anything yet. In fact, we have been winning since 2010 as 1,300 plus seats across this country prove. So you're already doing the work. So now what you have to do is keep on getting out there, keep talking. We're talking about different people showing up for Trump. You got to keep on getting these different people out there. You got to keep talking. I don't care if you're on Facebook, if you're on Twitter, if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on Pinterest, wherever you are, even in person. Go to your next door neighbor. It doesn't matter. Go to talk to people in your office. Turn on my program if you're at work. Turn it up so people in the two cubicles beside you can hear it, and then maybe they'll get an education as well. The point is that you've got to keep talking, and you've got to talk a lot, because people do not understand. Hell, we've had people, Mark Dice, man in the street thing, walking up to a lot of females and saying, hey, Hillary Clinton kind of likes Sharia law. What do you think about it? Oh, I think it's great. You want to say stupid? I'm not saying they're ignorant. Those people were stupid.
Yes.
We have a lot of ignorant voters. You can't help the stupid. You can help the ignorant. Educate them. Educate them. Stupid people are going to be stupid no matter what.
Yes.
You're going to have to let them go. But you have to understand the difference between stupid and ignorant. Ignorant just simply means they don't have all the facts. So give them the facts. Just flood them with the facts. Tell them to learn it, understand it, love it. And because once you give them the facts, and once they start thinking logically, like me, they'll have no problem agreeing with you. See, my whole plan behind my radio show is not get my other people, not like the big guys, to get everybody to agree with them. No, I'm not after getting everybody to agree with me. My goal is to get everybody to start thinking logically with facts. Because once you do that, on the macro, big picture stuff, you're automatically going to agree with me. And then we can do what our founders did, argue about the minute little details and how best to achieve the big picture. That's where we need to be. Not fighting to get that big picture back. We need to be fighting on how best to get to that big picture. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I can't say it enough. This is America.
Yes.
Thank you.